few days ago, I made the most viral video I've ever made in my entire career. In about 48 hours, it got 75 to 100 million views. And it was so crazy that it was to the point where I couldn't walk around without people saying, hey, aren't you that guy from that video? And I'm gonna show you the video in a second, but you know you hit true sort of national, at least level scale virality when about a third to half of all the users on short form video itself have seen a particular video, which is pretty crazy. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how I made that piece, the different things that I did, what I've learned about sort of that scale of viral content, and then really at the end, why it's not that important and it's not that cool. And certainly it is not super meaningful for the business that I am trying to run, which is called Epic Gardening. We are a big gardening content empire, and we also have a bunch of products and seeds, and we're in nurseries all around the country. And so I'll tie these things together so you can see how the metrics of virality don't actually necessarily map to the audience that you might want to build. But before we get into that, we have to watch the piece of content, so here it is.
Yeah, this all God, this ain't no love.
Okay, so that is the piece of content. It's relatively simple, actually, and there's a lesson in that alone. But let's talk first about how I came up with the idea. So I was scrolling through Instagram Explorer, and I saw that first part of the video that I used as the viral hook. And that would be that guy kneeling down at the trade show with that kneeling device. And immediately I was hooked, and I said, you know what? This is actually a cool idea. I could potentially see people wanting that in my world of gardening. If you're an elderly gardener, if you're mobility challenged, if you have bad knees, it could actually be a useful device. So I watched the video a few times, and I kind of got hooked on this idea of a product that we might want to carry in our online store, but also as a piece of media. My brain started going, and I was like, you know what? If I translate that into my world, I think our audience might even just like this as an entertaining piece of content to watch. So what I did is I texted my assistant, and I said, hey, see if you can find this thing anywhere in San Diego. And she found the only one that was left in all of San Diego County, and then brought it over. So I was able to make that piece of content within about a day of seeing the very first piece of content, which is super important for surfing a viral trend. You have to hit the peak, right? There's sort of an attention spike on a particular topic, like that video. The original video from the original creator went a little bit viral. So there's this sort of swell of attention around the topic. And if you let that swell pass and you sort of make the video way over here, 4 or 5 days later, you're not gonna get as much attention. So timeliness is super important. So grabbed it, tested it out, made that piece of content. And then what I did is I took the very first chunk of that video, about the first second or so, used it as a viral hook because quite frankly, I couldn't have made a better one. That was like the perfect viral hook. So everyone who watches my piece of content is gonna be hooked by something I already know is highly, highly appealing, right? I was hooked by it, so were many other people. And then I just translated that device into my universe, like shown in all sorts of different gardening contexts. So I showed it harvesting some carrots, weeding, a little montage of me putting it on. I kind of like teleported it in, like I saw it, I had this like, oh my God reaction. And then I stood there and popped it in. So there's some visual appeal there. But the thing you'll notice is I didn't actually speak in the entire piece of content. And this is something I learned from guys like Mr. Beast, or guys like my friend Isaac, who runs a sword company and a candy company. They get such insane viral scale. And when you get to those levels, as well as if you look at some of the biggest TikTok creators of the last few years, they often don't speak, or they often tend to emphasize things that all human beings, regardless of language or even age, can understand. So emotion on the face, no language, visual displays, right? There's a guy, Kaby Lame, I think it's called. He just does these reactions on TikTok. He's become one of the biggest TikTok followers. He never speaks. I don't think I've ever heard this guy utter a single word. And he's not even, I don't think, a native English speaker. I think he's from Africa. But regardless, you get a sense of true global scale if you sort of dumb the content down. And what I mean by dumb down is I just mean you're not gating it to someone who speaks English. If you said, this device is crazy. Immediately, if you don't understand English, you have to either translate that via caption, or you have to just let that person not understand what you're saying. And so there's a level of simplicity that you have to get to when you're going for true viral scale. So the rest of what I did, it's very simple. It's just that I surfed a trend, I combined it with my universe, and then I did like a what do you think at the end. So I was like, oh, what do you think? Like, I kind of like it, but what do you think? And that's just a comment response engagement move where people are going to say, oh my God, I need this, I want this, I want this. And so you're going to get that, you're going to get shares. And so it's almost this perfect storm of, you're going to get comments because I'm incenting the comment by asking them what they think of it. So that's step number one, comments are going up. It's inherently shareable content, which means that I'm going to get a lot of sends, right? On short form media, whether it's YouTube or most often TikTok or Instagram, I'm going to get a ton of people just sending that to their friends. Then I'm also going to get a lot of story reposts because that is something that someone says, oh my God, like I'll just share this to everyone that I know. And so you'll get story reposts, shares, sends, comments. That's almost the holy trinity. You're going to get all of the different engagement metrics that Instagram, TikTok, YouTube actually want to see. And then you're also going to get retention because I have a visual hook, and then I've got a bunch of different use cases, and then I tie it up, and it's so interesting. Probably you get a little bit of a replay rate on that. So video retention could be over 100%, at least on some of these platforms. And I think, the general rule of thumb for short form viral video is if you can get a 40 to 60 second video and you can get upwards of 80% retention, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a viral banger. The truth is, this didn't really do that much for myself or for us as a business. We got some followers on every single platform, I think probably 50 or 100,000 new followers, but for what, right? I mean, that's the question you have to ask when you're thinking about audience growth on the internet. Is there's a lot of ways to grow. I could be posting my feet pics on YouTube or Instagram, or I could be doing, showing a little nip or something. And it's like the audience you build is the audience you build. So you want to make sure that the content you're making and the followers you're getting off of that content is actually coalescing around a core of what you're actually trying to accomplish. And so, for me, in our gardening content that we create, the mission of our company is to teach the world to grow. And so I have to ask myself all the time, is the content I'm putting out there servicing that mission? Thus, do the followers we gain from that content actually want to be there to be served on that mission, right? And so sometimes you have a piece like this just run away from you. Like, I couldn't have expected 75 to 100 million views on this piece. I expected a few million, almost guaranteed, because I was very confident in the content, but I couldn't have expected it to go this far. Now, what I will say is we're in touch with the manufacturer, so you may see us launch a product like this soon, or we might even just carry the product from this particular manufacturer. But the craziest part is we sold it out in the United States. So by the time that the manufacturer got back to us and said they had seen our video, they said that we just sold the product out in America. Every single one of their dealers was completely out, which is kind of cool. But I think the main point I'm trying to make here is just shooting for viral banger after viral banger is where I see a lot of content creators and media makers get stuck in a trap where you have to realize that oftentimes there's an inverse correlation between the virality of a piece of content and its actual deliverance on the goals for your business. So if you go like this, oftentimes your revenue starts to go down, or your adherence, like the adherence of that audience to what you're trying to do, they don't care that much, right? They were there for a meal, or they might follow because you said, I'm gonna buy one of these and give it to a friend or something. There might be some reason that they followed that has nothing to do with your core business. So I guess what I would say in reflection is, I personally have learned a good amount about how to make more globally appealing pieces of content, more emotion, more visual demonstration, maybe even simpler or less language. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do that going forward, because I have to keep in mind the goals that I want to make for the media that I'm creating for the audience I want to serve. So if you have any questions, it's been a while since I've been on this channel, but it's spring. It's spring in the garden. Spring's a busy time for us. I will be here more often. I'm trying to get a setup kind of over here where I can just press record, put the mic on, and just fire a piece of content out for you guys. But until next time, peace out.